I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on GBM, we're taking a heartfelt look at what it's like for a child to face the daily challenges of obsessive compulsive disorder. The name of the book we're exploring is called The Very Best Me, and it's written by a terrific author. Her name is Marin Canaday. And in the book, she tells the empowering story of a young girl and her battle with the OCD monster, showing both the struggles and the victories. This is an inspiring children's book that not only raises awareness about OCD, but offers hope, encouragement, and understanding for families navigating the very same journey. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put her on TV today. We ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. Marin, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. It's something a lot of people don't know much about. They might not even think it exists. Prior to seeing your book, I didn't ever think about OCD in kids, but
Yeah.
it is a real phenomenon. Tell us about it.
So it's called the doubting disorder, and it's something that attacks what you care the most about. And so for me as a child, that was being a good person.
Mm.
And so the OCD would attack, if I ever made a mistake, I would have to confess and tell on myself again and again and again. And there were
Mm.
these intrusive thoughts that would come with it, like you're a horrible person. Look at that mistake you just made, or even fantasized mistakes. Like walking next to a car, I would see my hand reach out and scratch it with my fingernail. And so I would have to hold my hands behind my back and walk sideways by the car to make sure that nothing like that happened. And so a lot of people, they think of OCD and they think, oh, I'm organized. I must be OCD. Or I check the door a couple extra times. I must be OCD. But OCD really has a lot to do with the intrusive thoughts that the person needs to solve before they can move on.
Right. So it's a lot like ruminating in a way that
Oh,
you're going
definitely.
over and over and over again. So you take a cookie, you
Yes.
weren't supposed to take the cookie, and then you're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Basically, that kind of thing, right?
Yes. And
Yeah.
and confessing again and again and again and not having peace even after confessing. It's almost like you can't do enough to make yourself clean again. Does that make
And let it
sense?
go.
Yeah, can't let it go, can't move on.
So how did you learn to let it go and how did you move on?
Well, I used my mom as my therapist, I would say, my confidant. I would come to her and she would speak truth to me. She would be like, "Hey, that doesn't make sense. That's not like, for example, germs were a big one of mine. I was afraid that my germs were going to kill someone as a child. And that was terrifying. I didn't want to share a snack. I didn't want to bump up against someone on accident because I thought they would end up in the hospital and it would be all on me and it would be my fault. And so I would tell her these things and she would say, that just doesn't make sense. Has that ever happened before? Well, no, it hasn't happened before, but it could possibly happen. If there's even a little bit of a possibility, that drives someone with OCD nuts. And and I said, well, Mom, what would happen to you, or what would you think if you killed someone with your germs? And she said, well, it would be an accident. And that freed me. It would be an accident. I look at how careful I am being to not let these things happen. Um, I can move past that because I'm still a good person in my mind. It was just an accident. So that freed me from that. But really studying and volleyball helped a lot. Studying, I could turn my mind off because I was driven to get the A and I needed to get that information in my head to make sure that I would do well on a test. Volleyball, I had to turn my mind off to play, or otherwise I was going to get a ball in the face. And so I hid in those two things a lot.
They sound very, very helpful. Basically, distractions. You kind of have to learn to
Mhm.
tune out the voices in your head and tune into something more positive in a way, right?
Yes, definitely. Um, and almost acknowledge that the thought is there, but put it in a timeout.
Yeah.
Like it's nice, I hear you, but I'm not going to listen to you right now. I've got something else to do.
Yeah, there's some comedian who says that, and it's because he's OCD like that. And he basically
Mhm.
says, I have no time for you right now.
Yeah,
So every time a thought that comes into his head that's going to ruminate and cause him anxiety and stress and concern and worry, he compartmentalizes, I have no time for you right now. And that's what he
right.
says to the thought. I think it's Henry Winkler who actually uses
Okay.
that technique to
Okay.
drive out those thoughts from his head. So is this something you still kind of struggle with that you're going to have to learn to live with for the rest of your life, more or less?
Definitely. But I am managing it, and I've lived healthy lifestyle for the last 5 years. I had two extreme adult episodes that I could not even function. I'm running to the bathroom to dry heave because the intrusive thoughts are so disturbing and so persistent. Um, but I started seeing an actual therapist and a psychiatrist, and with the medication and with the help from them, um, I have been able to move on from my intrusive thoughts better. And yeah, like I said, for the last 5 years, I've been living a healthy life.
It almost seems like it's a spectrum disorder. I know we use that a
Definitely.
lot, but I think everybody on some level has that. So I can
Yes.
totally relate that you're so concerned, so worried, whatever it might be. But a person who is not as impacted by it is able to turn that off and
Right.
focus on what's important. The other person has more difficulty turning it off, and it becomes a barrier to living
Right.
their best life. Let's talk
Yes.
about your book. This is a
Mhm.
great gift you've given to other children who might be able to, who might be going through the same kind of things you were and
Yes.
recognize themselves within the pages of this book. So talk to us about writing it.
Right. Well, I wanted to write the book to encourage children who may be going through OCD themselves. I didn't have books like this growing up. I never even heard of OCD. So I was not diagnosed actually until 30. And at that point, it was so out of control that, I wanted to take my life. And
Mm.
I wanted children to have hope before they reach that, desperate, hopeless stage. I wanted them to see themselves in the page. I wanted to encourage the support group around them, how to help them, how to come along beside them and whisper truth to them, hold their hand, go to therapy with them, go to psychiatrist appointments with them. Don't be ashamed, and don't make them feel silly, because these thoughts may seem silly to the rational mind, but to somebody with OCD, they are very real.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I mean, we, like I said, we're all haunted at times by thoughts that we shouldn't have in our head. So I can
Right.
completely relate. Do affirmations help?
Yes, affirmations are good as well, but you have to believe what you say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
You can't just
what
say it, I
you,
got this, and not feel like you
yes,
got it. Yeah.
right. Like for me, I'm a Christian, and I would recite a Bible verse over and over and over again to myself. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. But I wasn't believing it at the time. And so it almost became a compulsion. Whenever I would have the thought, I would have to say those
Right.
words over and over and over again to soothe myself.
Right.
And so, you can't just say something emptily and think you're going to be able to move on. You have to
Exactly.
truly believe it.
Exactly. I always use Serenity's prayer. God, grant me the serenity to
Mm-hmm.
accept the things I cannot change, change the things I cannot accept, and the wisdom to know the difference. That
Right.
sometimes brings me peace. And the other one is, and this too shall pass,
Yes.
is another good affirmation, right?
Yes. And I got to the point where I didn't believe that. I thought that I was going to be a violent person, and that if I didn't take my own life, I was going to be harming other people. And
Awful.
so I didn't believe that this too shall pass,
Right.
but God showed me that my fear was a lie.
Yeah.
I would come back from dry heaving in the toilet,
Mm.
and I would turn on the radio station, and Zach Williams' song "Fear is a Liar" would be playing at that exact same minute. It happened time and time and time again. until I was truly listening to the words. And it says, fear is a liar. He will take your breath, stop you in your steps. Fear, he is a liar. He will rob your rest, steal your happiness, cast your fear in the fire, because fear is a liar.
Well, that's a great affirmation as well to focus on that,
Yes.
right? Yeah, without
Yes.
a doubt.
And
Yeah,
that's what I use even today. Those thoughts will come back and I'll say, no, fear is a liar.
right. Exactly. And also it's difficult or impossible to entertain two thoughts at the same time.
Yes,
So
it is.
focus on the positive thought. Let me just ask you this about your book before we leave you. You portray OCD as a monster in the book.
Yes.
Tell us how you think that's helpful to kids and why you constructed it that way.
Yes. So I was in a therapy session and the therapist was saying, someone had described to her OCD as a monster waiting to devour them. And I thought, well, I like the idea of OCD as a monster, but I'm going to make it kid friendly. And so in my book, OCD starts out as a little monster that is on the shoulder and whispers doubts and fears. As you pay attention to it, it grows and gets out of control and becomes the boss. And with the help of family and the support around the girl in the story, the main character is a girl, she gets the power to move past. The monster is never truly going to go away, but it can be managed.
That is great advice and a great metaphor for children to learn in dealing with this and other issues. And like I said, this is a spectrum disorder. Kids
Yes,
have it on some level or another. So they
yes.
need to push those negative thoughts out and realize this is a monster that might be with them for a while, but that they got this. They can tackle it
Mhm.
without a doubt. The name of the book is The Very Best Me. It is a touching and empowering story for any family facing the challenges of OCD together. Marin, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate your time, your insight, your candor, and your wisdom. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford for the Global Book Network. So long for now.